Hello, my name is Jessica Black and I am with Dr. Cole's senior seminar at Longwood University. I apologize for the background noise. My computer is being a little bit funky right now. Today I will be talking about the American Civil War and the Appomattox Campaign. I became interested in the Battle of Sailor's Creek when I started a project in 2017 for a photo class. I became fascinated with the history in the area surrounding the Battle of Sailor's Creek. The Battle of Sailor's Creek is important to me because it happened just 48 hours before the surrender at Appomattox, and not enough people in the United States know about it. Since I have learned so much about the Appomattox Campaign since beginning that project, but I'm not an expert, to be honest. Today I will be asking what led to the surrender at Appomattox by the Confederates on April 9, 1865. After my research, I have found that the answer to that question is that the Confederates surrendered because of the lack of rations and supplies, the loss of morale within the Confederacy, and the unraveling of their government. Another significant factor that is worth mentioning about the surrender is the thoughts that the Confederates had on slavery. It is important to discuss the reason why the American Civil War began and why it ended for the Confederates. The war began for the Confederates for a few reasons, but the most important reasons were slavery and states' rights. The war ended for the Confederates because of slavery and a collapsing government. To give you a brief history of what happened during the Appomattox Campaign, for about 12 days in 1865, the campaign traveled to different locations in Virginia. The Union Army chased the rebels from one location to the next and ultimately to their surrender. The Appomattox Campaign began on March 29th. On this day, Petersburg collapsed. Before the campaign, the siege of Richmond and Petersburg had occurred. This siege wore down the Confederate Army and almost completely cut off their supply chain. As the Confederates retreated from Richmond, which was their capital, they were running low on supplies, rations, and morale. From there, the Confederate troops went south to escape the wrath of the Union forces. On April 3rd, the Confederates traveled to Amelia's Courthouse and Jetersville. At these locations, there were small skirmishes between both sides. After the fighting dwindled down on April 5th, both sides began racing to Farmville. Located in Farmville was Rice's Station. Here the Army could retrieve supplies and rations. It would be a large advantage for either side if they gained these supplies, especially for the Confederates. Just outside of Farmville, before they could reach the railway station, the Union and Confederates had a battle there at Sailor's Creek. In Chris Culkin's The Appomattox Campaign, March 29, April 9, 1865, he states that at this point the Confederate Army had almost been completely defeated and only had 2 corps left to fight the Union forces. Within the next days, the Confederate forces had surrendered to Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant and the United States Army. There are many intertwining factors that led to the Confederates to deteriorate. The South was amid a big change in their economy and industries during the war. They had produced enough arms to continue the war, but they suffered in providing medical supplies, food, and clothing for its forces. But with a failing economy and government, it led to the loss of morale in the South and within the Confederacy. There were many problems with the government that had been established in the Confederate States of America. In Culkin's Appomattox Campaign, General Robert E. Lee sent out a message to the citizens of Amelia County, Virginia, on April 4th. To the citizens, Lee pleaded, "I therefore appeal to your generosity and charity to supply as far as each one is able to the wants of brave soldiers who have battled for their liberty for 4 years." Lee urged the citizens to donate what they could. "We require meat, beef, cattle, sheep, hogs, flour, meal, corn, and provender in any quantity that can be spread." For the Confederacy, their ideas of being a unified nation would deteriorate as the war drew on. In the beginning of the Confederacy, the attitudes of secession were popular. In Charles H. Wesley's The Collapse of the Confederacy, he states, "After 1861, there was a gradual decline in popular enthusiasm." Wesley then states, as the year 1865 dawned, there was an absence of enthusiasm of 1861 among many of the Southern people. There were also many problems with the government that had been established by the Confederate States of America. In Wesley's Collapse of the Confederacy, it is stated that discord and criticisms soon spread, and scores of men, prominent in their sections, broke into hostility with the administration. It is an obvious fact that the war began over slavery. In Richard E. Behringer's Why the South Lost the Civil War, it is stated that not only had the Confederates lost its bid for independence, which its would-be citizens would have confined thereafter to their hearts, in the process they had lost slavery, an object that Northerners and Southerners alike agreed was worth fighting over. After the war, the Confederates had to undergo a radical change in their thinking. The attitudes towards slavery in the South hindered the ways that it could be saved by the Union and its outside forces. During the war, there was talk of emancipation within the Confederacy. The attitudes and reactions toward this decision were a strong no for many citizens. The South used slavery as an economic advantage before and during the war. They also used slaves as manpower. But a failing government had tried to fix what they could because they ultimately knew they would lose the war. In conclusion, those are the reasons why the Confederates surrendered on April 9, 1865. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. Thank you for listening to my presentation today. Stay safe and healthy out there.